Hello Wastelanders, it's your favorite Fallout maniac and content creator you've almost never heard of, Captain Mal77. Also known as, of course, that happy Fallout guy. Here to bring you a video I originally conceived of as part of Wes Johnson's The Longest Day Alzheimer's fundraiser. And although the fundraiser may officially be over, you can still go and find out information, donate to Alzheimer's research at alz.org. Just wanted to let you guys know. This video is something that I originally discovered during my Fallout Food Project research. That's a project I hopefully am going to revive this summer. So let's jump right into it. Without further ado, the time the US government decided that the most important question following a nuclear apocalypse is, could you drink the beer? I'm talking, of course, ladies and gentlemen, about Operation Teapot.
Operation Teapot, the latest addition to our Encyclopedia of Nuclear Testing, bears the dateline Spring, 1955. For the fifth time in continental testing, the symbol of nuclear power rose over the mountains of Nevada. This series encompassed so many objectives that preparations began while there was still snow on the mountains surrounding the Nevada test site and in the valley north of Yucca Flat. In contrast, the series came to an end in May, amid the bloom of desert flowers.
So, dig it, you guys. In the 1950s, the United States government conducted a huge variety of nuclear experiments under the umbrella of Operation Teapot. But for our purposes, the one we're interested in is Project 32.2A, the effect of nuclear explosions on commercially packaged beverages. Now, originally, this test was intended to study the effects of nuclear explosions on packaged food. However, when the government realized that the availability of potable water was going to be a big problem in disaster conditions, as well as how ubiquitous commercially produced beverages were, they decided, hey, let's take a bunch of readily available beverages, set them up at varying distances from ground zero, and drop a nuclear bomb on them. What's the worst that could happen? Which is sort of like using a giant frat party as a basis for a nuclear experiment, but I digress. So, officially, the experiment was meant to measure blast effects, subsequent levels of induced radioactivity, and ultimate potability. In other words, after a nuclear event, could you survive on commercial beverages? Or, as NPR put it, the eternal question, can you drink the beer? And this was a serious experiment. They took samples of various readily available drinks like beer, soda, and water in cans and glass bottles, set them up at varying distances from ground zero, and kept meticulous records of where they were placed, what cover they had, and how far they were from the initial blast. They performed the first test with a device of what they call nominal yield. For some context, that's a little bit smaller than Fat Man, and just a little more powerful than Little Boy. And the results of their initial tests were so encouraging that they repeated the experiment again with a bigger bomb. So what did they find out? Well, first of all, most of the bottles and cans survived the blast, even almost as close as 1,300 feet from ground zero, with most of the damage being due to what they called missile perforation, which is another way of saying that there was more damage to the beverage containers from flying missiles, crushing by surrounding structures, or dislodgement from shelves than there was from the blast itself. Although they were sure to note that shipping cartons and cases offered definite protection from the blast. But what about the radiation? I mean, I know we're all really into Nuka-Cola, but would consuming beer, soda, and water from a nuclear danger zone really turn us all into radioactive mutants? Surprisingly, the answer is no. As it turns out, even the bottles and cans closest to ground zero showed very little induced radioactivity. And even though the containers did show some radiation from the blast, it didn't transfer the content, which would make them perfectly viable sources of clean drinking water in a nuclear emergency, what they refer to a little further along as well within permissible limits for emergency use. In fact, you can go help yourself as soon as the storage area is safe to enter after a nuclear explosion. So to recap this already crazy story so far, the United States government discovered that most of the commercially packaged beverages left within 1,300 feet of ground zero of a nuclear explosion both survived the blast and contained little enough radiation to be used as a viable water source in an emergency. But the real question is, how do they taste?
You know, if I didn't have the bottle right in my hand, I'd say this beer came straight from the tap.
Hold everything. Let's hear that again.
If I didn't have the bottle right in my hand, I'd say this beer came straight from the tap.
And it's true. Crazily enough, in immediate taste tests, I wonder if that guy got a bonus, the flavor was found to be comparable to your average commercial beverage. Now, they did note down some slight flavor changes, more noticeable in the beer than in the soft drinks, but they also noted that it was comparable flavor changing to aging, and that it wouldn't detract from their emergency use as supplies of potable water. And the crazy thing is, when they sent these results out to a lab, the laboratory confirmed them.
Wow!
So, according to Operation Teapot, if you ever find yourself in a nuclear apocalypse, the answer to the question of, can you drink the beer, is yes! So if you get thirsty out there in the wasteland, help yourself to a Nuka-Cola. How about a beer? Go ahead, have a party, just like a real, bona fide wastelander. But remember, whatever you do out there, do it at your own risk. So until next time, take care of each other out there, wastelanders. We're all we've got.
Operation Teapot now takes its place as a significant contribution to our ever-growing encyclopedia of atomic weapon research.